Good morning, all. Namaste, everyone. We are hopping on for our live this morning. This is our hope and intention here at Rasa Ayurveda and it's my hope also that we will hop on for some of these lives as questions are arising from you. And we had these lives in the past and they were more broad, but now these lives really focused on topics. So specific topics. Good morning, everyone. I know that some of you are not necessarily here in Canada, as I am, so maybe it's good afternoon or evening. So today, especially a focus with this live as a Q&A on especially women's health, yoni care, so vaginal care. We get a lot of questions about this and a lot of beautiful testimonials, I could say, about the gift of Ayurveda for one's vaginal health, but also women's hormonal health and all things womanly. So that's the intention, especially as we have one more week before Mother's Day. I was hoping that we could have a little sharing around this. So basically, your questions, any questions you have, you can put in the chat box below, and then I can answer them from there. So anything that's there for you, anything you're wondering about as far as women's health, you can put into, there's both a question box, or you can just put it into the comments, anything that might be arising for you, and then we can start from there. So really, truly, any questions that might be arising. These are intended to be Q&As that are directed from what's alive for you and the questions that you have. Welcome, I see various beings joining, women joining. Welcome, everyone. So just as a reiteration, I was saying that the intent of this is really for us to be together in a Q&A specifically around women's health and also around vaginal health, what we would call yoni health, and generally around anything that involves women's cycles, women's hormones, etc. So I'm seeing a question already arising about urinary tract infection, so what we might call UTI, and not knowing why this arises. So especially if we're getting these fairly regularly, or if there's been a pattern of these throughout our lives, then especially with urinary tract infections, we often see that this is a heated condition. So in Ayurveda, it often means that there is a pitta imbalance. Not always, but it is it tends to be seen either with pitta vikruti, with a pitta current state of vitiation and imbalance, and with more pitta prakruti women, so women who have more of a pitta dosha constitution. So in that way, UTI is something that definitely I have a lot of women who have had the prevalence of that in their lives, who come and come clinically, and I've seen amazing changes to that chronic occurrence with the gift of Ayurveda. So, oftentimes with allopathic medicine, we look at treating the symptom, but actually with Ayurveda, we look at treating, in fact, the root. So looking as much as possible to treat the root imbalance. And this woman is sharing that she has more of a kapha vata constitution, not a pitta constitution. Yeah, it might be that the urinary tract infections are coming for various reasons, but it tends to be usually Shital that there is some kind of imbalance of pitta, of inflammation that's occurring. Although I have seen this also in kapha conditions. So in that way, what I would share with you is to especially, if we can possibly first, before we're treating it symptomatically, let's say it in that way, we treat that root by doing an internal cleanse. This entire shrota, this entire channel of the system of the yoni and also the urinary tract, this entire area needs to be cleansed. And so we can do that by, for example, the diet that we eat, the exercise that we decide to engage in, the things that we wear also, the way in which we engage in sexuality, all of those things need to be considered. But one of the first things you can consider is how you're washing or cleansing the area from the inside out. And so one of the most simple things is often hydration, that a lot of women are not hydrating enough. So firstly, hydrating can be really, really an important one. So making sure that we're drinking clean, spring, as much as possible, well mineralized waters that help to cleanse that area. Another one is that at times it can be very helpful for us to also drink things that are cooling. So, for example, aloe vera juice is a wonderful one to cleanse the area. It's cooling and it's also very cleansing for that area. But also drinking generally, now we're coming more towards spring, and then we'll be making our way towards summer season, especially here, or for many of you in the Northern Hemisphere. So having a little bit more juice in our diet, drinking juices, for example, of amla, that's a great juice as well to clear and restore the area, can be very helpful. But even something as simple as cucumber juice can be very cleansing. And many of us know about cranberry juice. So also something with astringency. So with this rasa, with this flavor, with an astringent flavor, is very helpful to also cleanse the area. So even adding some cranberry juice to our warm water can be very, very helpful to cleanse the area. Then the other things, that become more controversial, and this is why we also wanted to have this chat together, because some of these ancient practices that are not only from Ayurveda, but also we find these ancient practices in things like TCM in traditional Chinese medicine. We see it in Mayan healing and South American healing. We see around the world, actually, in indigenous medicinal systems, that there has been care for the yoni and women's health care. Such practices like what we would call swedana, sweating or steaming, but also of the yoni, actually. So of the vagina. And now there's a lot of bad rap, if I can say it in that way, either because it's been popularized and we're not practicing it in a way that's really applied moment to moment to the individual and what's happening for us, or because it's receiving some of that bad rap more from an allopathic perspective. It's the only way I can simply say it, in which the kind of globality, the fullness of what's happening when you use some of these traditional medicinal approaches isn't really respected or known, or the application of them in a case-by-case circumstance isn't applied. And so we really have to be aware of that. So with UTIs, when we have a UTI, we absolutely don't apply something like yoni steaming or use something like yoni eggs. We actually make sure that we're not doing those things during that time. But preventatively, it can also be very, very helpful to use something like yoni swedana once or twice, yoni steaming once or twice in a month, to help to prevent and also balance and also cleanse. If there's stagnation, especially in your case when you're sharing about having more of a kapha predominance, if there is any stagnation in the channel of the yoni, it can be helpful to steam the area, to open the area and steam it. And even at the beginning, I suggest to women, you don't necessarily have to do this with herbs. If you just want to feel, the sensation of sitting over a warm bath, a warm, what could be a pot or a bucket, or there's also yoni steam boxes also. Sitting over that with some warm water or with some warm salted water as well, saline water, that can help to just steam and open the area. Of course, our yoni is receiving a steam when we shower. I mean, that's why these things start to get ridiculous, is when they become so demonized. But actually, when we think about them, we're actually doing that to the area anyways when we're in a bath. This is also like a major sitz bath. So also when I hear any kind of demonization or any kind of medical warning against sitz baths, of course, they need to be applied at the right time for the right person. But these things are truly medicine. They have amazing benefits for women the world over. And I have seen hundreds, if not now thousands of women who have been benefited by these ancient practices. So I want to make sure that we really are landed into how to apply them, that you work either with a practitioner or you work with an Ayurvedic doctor to really know how to apply them, but that we don't lose some of these. We've lost so many of our traditions, and in these ways, Ayurveda has much to offer. So a salted steam, but also something as simple as calendula, or for example, even some of us might be aware of the herb neem. So neem is a very good cleansing as well, antimicrobial, antifungal. So even adding 1 to 2 teaspoons of neem churna, of neem powder, into a liter or two of hot water, and then sitting over a bucket with a nice towel over top of us, just to gently steam, like you were steaming your face. Also, even garlic. Garlic is an excellent one. Now, of course, there's a smell to it, but it's an excellent one that's also highly antimicrobial. So all of these things can be helpful, as well as just generally in and through the area of the yoni, making sure that we're not using any kind of chemical products, chemical creams around the area, chemical douches. Also, women using conventional products such as tampons that are conventionally offered, grown with inorganic cotton, as well as the various preservatives and chemicals that are in conventional tampons. All of these can contribute to things like UTIs and yeast infections. So our diet is really important. We can have some internal cleansing and cooling. There's so many things we could talk about today, but I want to at least give you a few tips. And more than anything, I want to really inspire us to be together in these ways, to have women's collectives in which we can truly share this ancient wisdom for the benefit of ourselves, but also our sisters, our mamas, our grandmothers, our children, our daughters. All of these things can be so beneficial. So alternative menstrual products. I meant to bring with me, I brought a few things, but one of the things that I so often suggest is transitioning to natural menstrual products like at Rasa. We just have a new order coming in now from India. We're so happy to support especially collectives in India that really support the local people. And one of them that we have is supporting a company called EcoFem, which actually produces and makes organic washable menstrual pads. And so these washable pads are beautiful in that they're organic, they're made there, etc. But the other and the gift to not throwing all of the menstrual products that we do into the waste. But also the beautiful thing about EcoFem is they have a pad for pad project. So every one of the pads that you buy from us at Rasa Ayurveda, one pad is also given to a young woman or a woman in India, as well as menstrual education and menstrual, what I could call liberation, a celebration of our menstruation rather than hiding of it. So even switching our menstrual products, all of these things can be very, very helpful to ward off if we've been dealing with chronic things like urinary tract infections. I'm noticing that more questions are coming in. Loving seeing all of you. I'm so happy to see all of you this morning. Oh, it's so nice to be together. There's such an energy of coming together in this way that I find to be a true joy. So I'm noticing the social reflections asking, could you please share on what we do for chronic pains without any real structural issue? Absolutely. So I imagine that what you're asking is chronic pain in the area of either the pelvic floor or the area internally or externally. It would be good if you could clarify a little bit further what it is exactly that you might be talking about. This is the thing with Ayurveda. Of course, to give kind of quick fix-it suggestions is in many ways symptomatic again. We're treating symptoms rather than looking at the global situation. So this is why I just want to say again, for each and every one of us, I really, really suggest that we have a longer time to sit with a doctor, whether that doctor be an Ayurvedic doctor or an Ayurvedic practitioner or a naturopath, someone that you really trust comes into an awareness of holism. So really we'll treat this with a holistic view, and that's probably why we're all here together. And so in that way, if there is chronic pain in the area, this lower area, so from really from just above the hips, so what we could call kind of the large intestine down towards the colon and around to the sacrum, that whole band and down is what we call in Ayurveda the seat or the home of Vata. And so being the home of Vata, being the home more of this air and ether, especially when we get pain in that area, because pain tends to be more aligned to a Vata imbalance. It's showing us that there may be some Vata imbalance in the area. It all depends. If we're having burning pain or if we're having heaviness in the area, then it could be of more a Pitta nature or more of a Kapha nature. But especially in that area, if we have instability, if we notice we have coldness, dryness, pain, etc. All of these things could potentially point towards a vata imbalance. So massage is one of the things that I especially suggest for us as women. Breast massage, but also a massage in through the areas of the hips, the groin, the area even of the yoni as well. Giving massage, both what I could call a dry massage, just a stimulating massage, which will also stimulate the various marma points, the various acupressure points that help to free those areas. And stagnation. Many of us know now about the gift of breast massage, also for just self-regulation and self-checking, but also it keeps the entire area, and hormonally it also keeps us stimulated. It also keeps oxytocin flowing in the body, which of course is deeply healing for immunity as well. Women, it's unbelievable if we keep oxytocin flowing in the body, which also comes with pleasure and orgasm actually, but also arises with affection and just with massage. All of these are deeply healing in the way in which they produce and help to promote oxytocin. But in that area, if there's stagnation, if we're finding that there's pain and there's kind of clenching and holding, there are many things that can help, but one can be also massage. So it could be massage without oil, but it can also be abhyanga. So abhyanga massage is one of the most beautiful things that we can do generally for the entirety of our body, especially if we deal with vata. But it's also a wonderful way in through that area to help to warm the area, to help to allow as the body grows and changes prenatally, postnatally, all the various things that happen to us, menopausally, with menstruation. You see, as women, we flow through so many different cycles. Truly, throughout our lives. And so this area of the pelvis, the whole pelvic girdle, the pelvic floor as well, goes through so many changes. And many of us are, at this moment saying, amen. It's like we just go through a lot of shifts and changes. And so giving massage to the area is giving love and attention. But abhyanga also helps to rejuvenate the area with warmth, the warmth of the oil, but also the warmth of just really the healing hands and moving our hands into that area. There's a couple things I suggest for women in through the area of the yoni. And one is using something that is a oil, if you're going to use oil, that brings balance, that's not going to throw off your pH. The yoni is naturally acidic, and that helps to ward off infection, actually. So the yoni is very much self-cleaning. So in that way, this is often when people misunderstand why we do abhyanga, or why we, for example, do things like what we call yoni prakshalana, so a cleansing of the yoni, which may be water washing of the yoni, or we do things like yoni steam, yoni swedana, or we also do things like yoni pichu, which is actually an oil insert into the yoni. If there's a misunderstanding of Ayurveda, then I will often hear things like, oh, well, the yoni self-cleaning, you don't need to do anything. And absolutely, the yoni is self-cleaning, but when there is imbalance, when we are having dis-ease of that space, then there are ways that we can bring it back to balance. And it's not that we have to use these things all the time, but we can absolutely use them medicinally to help us both preventatively, but also help us to bring and restore balance into the area. So massage is especially wonderful with an oil that honors the natural pH of the yoni. And that's why at Rasa I formulated an oil called our Sacred Yoni Elixir. And the Sacred Yoni Elixir borrows and draws from traditional oils that have been used to help to bring balance to the yoni, either as a yoni insert. So when I say yoni, I mean the vagina. So a yoni pichu, an insert that helps to bathe the area in oil. Many of you are going, oh, that sounds and sounds like it would feel so good. Especially postmenopausally, for many of us, there can be dryness that starts to enter in. This is a wonderful practice, actually, to bathe and to inundate the area with oil. But for us, whether it's daily, if we're dealing with pain and discomfort, or it's a couple times a week, giving a massage to the area with our Sacred Yoni Elixir. I'm seeing if I brought it here. Yeah, so this is the Sacred Yoni Elixir. And this one, it's a wonderful dropper. It's a beautiful golden color because of the sea buckthorn oil that's in it. It also has shatavari, herbal oil in it, as well as some other oils, such as, for example, even myrrh or tea tree, that help to ward off if we do deal with infectious conditions. But the shatavari is wonderful because it's also estrogenic. I've had women who have been using estrogen either internally, orally, or estrogen suppositories as well, because of post-menopausally dealing with dryness or dealing with discomfort in the area, and amazing testimonials about how this has really helped. So if you deal with chronic pain in that area without any structural issues, just generally giving love through massage, for example, can be a wonderful way. Another way is if we internally deal with into the vaginal, and I'm getting really brash and just open with all of us during this time, but if you deal with pain in through the yoni, like into the vaginal walls or around this area, just generally massaging. You know, the yoni, like our hands and our feet, really is a map of reflexology. And so much of our life has been mapped into the space of our yonis. And so we develop knots, just like you would massage out your shoulder or massage out a place in the body where there is knots or tension. Also in the yoni, we can hold knots and tension, trauma, old emotional holdings, whether that trauma be emotional or physiological or sexual, that can all be held within the yoni. Our cervix, that ending of the yoni, can really hold so much trauma and pain, and it can go or range anywhere from being numb to being very painful as well. So in those cases, just giving ourselves massage, loving attention, can be a beautiful practice for each of us. But this is why also at Rasa we have a couple things that also I'm noticing there's a lot of controversy around these in the world today, and it comes again more from an allopathic kind of aversive, I would say in many ways a lack of recognition of some of these more subtle understandings and energetic understandings. And really what I always share women is, how does it work for you? What's your experience in using some of these things? And when I'm referencing that, what I mean is, for example, we have yoni eggs, or yoni wands rather. These are our yoni wands. And we also have yoni eggs. And these yoni eggs come more from the Taoist tradition rather than the Vedic tradition, but they're beautiful gemstone eggs. I'll show you. We have obsidian and rose quartz in different sizes, as you can see, as well as this is a ethically beautifully mined Canadian nephrite jade as well in different sizes. Those come more from the Taoist, the ancient Chinese medicinal practices. And with experience, truly with experience, you simply see, just like anything you're doing in your life, is there benefit? Is there something that's arising? And I have to say, after working literally with thousands of women, I have seen unbelievable benefits for so many women by using these in the right time, in the right place, whether it's the yoni eggs, or also, as this woman is beautifully asking so vulnerably, what if there's pain in through the yoni or pain in through the cervix? Using something just like you would use a massage tool onto various areas of the body, we can actually use, this is an obsidian, so it's a wonderful, more non-porous gemstone, and it's wonderful for drawing out any kind of negative energy. Whether that's negative energy, you wear an obsidian pendant onto the heart space, or you use it internally. So even massaging with this in through the area gently, with a little bit of the sacred yoni elixir, or if there isn't any challenge with moisture in the area, using this can be a beautiful practice. And many women, when they see it, we say, oh, it's a dildo. Okay, it can be a dildo also. There's nothing wrong with that. So in that way, it can also be a beautiful pleasure tool as well. There's absolutely nothing wrong with pleasure. Actually, kama, or pleasure, is what in Ayurveda and in the Vedas is one of the 4 purushartam. Purushartam mean the 4 fulfillments, the 4 goals of what it is to have a human life. So there is absolutely nothing taboo about pleasure. And it's ridiculous that sexual pleasure or orgasm or any of these things that are entirely natural and part of what it is to be alive have in any way become taboo or demonized. So even this also, if it brings great pleasure, but it can also bring relief of pain. The other way this can be used, actually, and I've brought another thing which is called a kansa wand. I've brought our kansa wand that we use for body. So you can probably see This is our larger one. So we have a smaller one for the face, but I also suggest using these as well, or using the yoni wand on the area around. So into the groin, getting it into the space around the groin, down and through the inner thighs, and in through and around into the pelvic floor. That space between the vaginal opening, between the yoni and also the anus, so that whole pelvic floor band, which can hold a lot of tension. Massaging with these can be so wonderful. Also with our hands, and this can be done by yourself or also with a partner. These are beautiful ancient practices that help to not only stimulate but also release tension in that area. So many of us, when we tense in our lives, when there's stress in our lives, and also when we're sedentary, two things can happen. So with sedentary lives, we can actually, we often think that everything becomes lax, and it can become lax. But also with sedentary lives, everything can become a little bit atrophied, which means it can develop tightness, dryness, etc. And especially when we have tension and stress, all of our circular muscles are connected, especially the muscles of the vocal cords and the space of the larynx. If you even look at the imagery of the larynx and the vocal cords as it connects also to the yoni and the vulva, you'll see that they're almost like direct mirror images. It's amazing to see anatomically how similar they are. So as we develop tension, and you can feel it even into your jaw, you might develop tension here just as you develop tension into the pelvic floor. And that's why I suggest even using something like the Kansa wand into the area of that space, or doing things like sounding, releasing, chanting. These are beautiful practices. As you release this whole area, you also help to release the area of the yoni and the pelvic floor. So tension can be held in many ways, and in more holistic medicine such as Ayurveda, we start to look at the relationship between all of these things, actually. So those are some practices. I've given you a whole host of them, whether it be steaming or using yoni eggs, using the yoni wand, various things in through the area. Now, I just want to see if any of you have questions about the yoni eggs that may be arising as well for any of you. And I also see that Jenny was sharing a sad part becomes sometimes when these traditional treatments come to the West. It's true. It's like sometimes when they come to the West, it's such a gift, and then what happens is they get shielded by or veiled by this belief. And recently I had someone write me about the difference between evidence-based medicine and alternative medicine. And I had to really stop and pause, because something really arises in me when this is said, is something such as Ayurveda or Chinese medicine or Unani, all of these traditional medicines, are they not evidence-based? Is the evidence not thousands and thousands of years of healing offerings that they've given to us? I have to say, in the last 15 years in which I've been engaged in the gifts of the Vedas, it has truly been constantly evidence-based. So when we take a medicine that's only 200 years old, although allopathy has its roots in traditional medicine, of course it does, but when we call recent research of the last 50 years something that is evidence-based, I beg to highly differ, actually. And when we call things like Ayurveda or Chinese medicine alternative medicine, I also beg to highly differ. This is true holism. Ayurveda considers true holism, and in that way we lose that holism often when these things come to the West, because we're symptomatically treating dis-ease. Actually, it's not about maintaining health, but treating dis-ease constantly. And so in that way, Ayurveda as a medicine is really about acknowledging and celebrating and maintaining healthfulness. It says that our health is our very birthright, that dis-ease is a movement away from our natural state, a movement away from our naturalness. So in that way, it absolutely considers not only preventative medicine, but also maintenance medicine, which is a medicine that maintains your healthfulness, that says, no, it's your right to be this healthful. And in that way, many of us have actually gone astray from what it is to be maintained in our great, what I could call women's cyclical medicine, women's hormonal medicine, these traditional ways of knowing, because we've followed that which is more evidence-based in being Western or allopathic medicine. I hear, to give examples, and I don't want to demonize it because I also love the gifts of contemporary Western medicine. But when it's only applied in a symptomatic way, this can really start to, in many ways, be diseased, actually. For example, recently a woman came to me and said that her doctor, a woman doctor, had suggested to her that it was ridiculous in the busyness of our current contemporary lives as women to get our period. So she said, I'm going to give you a birth control pill, but I'm going to suggest that you just continue to cycle through the pill so that you don't actually take the 7-day pills that allow you to have your menstrual cycle. So instead, you're just going to restart and move through the birth control pill in a way that you actually avoid your menstruation altogether. This avoidance of the gift of womanhood, the gift of these cyclical movements, is what actually leads us down so many hormonal imbalances, so many autoimmune conditions, so many health impacts that move well beyond what's happening in our yoni or our reproductive or our sexual health. They can have long-standing, actually ill implications for all of our health. So when it starts to be applied symptomatically in these ways, and I'm sure many of you also have examples in your own feminine trajectory and in your own women's health, your own lives, the denial of the feminine is something that we see collectively. And so really in many ways Ayurveda has beautiful ways of ensuring and also celebrating what it is to be in this feminine embodiment and all of her changeful state. I have to say, you know, as these gray hairs continue and as this body also changes, finds its changing state, it's an ever unfolding to discover what it is to be, you know, woman and to be in this embodiment. So I hope that we can all share in the gifts of these things. So thank you for that sharing, Jenny. Other questions? Yes, and I saw that you were writing also pain around the abdomen, pelvic, and back area. The other thing I want to say about the back area is we can absolutely do abhyanga in through that area. But another thing, women, for many of you that I want to share is to do castor oil packs. So I don't know how many of you have heard of castor oil packs before. Maybe you can, you know, share a little heart or let me know in one way or another. These lives are a bit difficult because usually I'm on, you know, collectives and Zoom and things like that together, but I'm hopeful that these will really be a gift to all of us. But castor oil packs, castor oil throughout the tradition of Ayurveda has been mentioned so many times for various things. We use castor oil for purgation, for example, for varichana. So we use it internally to cleanse and to release, especially in pitta conditions. Castor oil is also used topically. It can be used, many of you may be familiarized with, I see some of you are beauticians also, that castor oil has been used in many products to increase hair growth. So using it on the eyebrows or the eyelashes, castor oil can be a wonderful, because it so has such a high viscosity, so it can be a wonderful way to also help to bring moisture into the body or into the skin. So it's used in many different ways. But one of the amazing ways that castor oil can be used is to actually draw out pain and vata, because it's very warming and also very viscose. So it has that density to it. It's wonderful when there is coldness, when there's dryness, and when there might be vata that's entered into spaces, which also means that there's a lack of groundedness, if I can say it in that way. And so into the back or into the area of the lower abdomen, if you tend to deal with pain or cramping, menstrual cramps as well, castor oil packs are an amazing way that you can help to bring warmth and density and move out some of this pain and cramping. Now, it's wonderful to do it preventatively. So what I mean by that is even before your cycle. So before your menstrual cycle, it can be fantastic. And I want to highlight that we can use this even if we have pain without menstruation. So you can also do like a lower back castor oil pack that can be wonderful, even if we have, for example, degeneration of the discs in the lower lumbar area, or if we generally deal with pain and through these areas, any kind of hip or pelvic girdle instability can be wonderful, but also for menstrual pain. So castor oil packs, especially done before the cycle, even at a weekly rhythm. But I know some beings that I've suggested even for IBS, for example, for irritable bowel, which in Ayurveda we don't really call it IBS because we see a lot of other imbalances that might be there. So we find the root, again, the doshic root that might be there. But for things that we might contemporarily call IBS, castor oil packs, even on a daily basis, can be very, very powerful to bring a soothing, warming, comforting, and a drawing effect. Castor oil is wonderful for drawing out toxicity as well. So the way in which you can do a castor oil pack is by warming castor oil. Then you'll dip a flannel, like dip a cloth that's quite a thick, dense cloth in that warmed castor oil. Place it onto the area, and then place another towel wrapping the body. And it helps if you have something underneath, whether it's a towel or a plastic sheet, something where if the castor oil moves down onto it, it's okay. And then a hot water bottle, and again wrapping yourself again in a nice warm blanket, and then letting the castor oil really absorb into that area, whether it's the lower back or, as you were sharing, around into the abdomen as well. That castor oil warm can even be placed onto the area of the pelvic floor, so the hammock in that area as well. Warm castor oil massaged into that area can be wonderful. So some of those things, and any further information any of you are longing for, we're taking these hours once in a while, and this is the intention to come with topic focuses for all of you. But any further information you're looking for, you can always hop onto our website. We have castor oil there, for example. We have ongoing blogs to share about these various topics. You can look up the yoni eggs or the yoni wand, the sacred yoni elixir. You can see the various testimonials. I have to say, when Rasa came as Dharma, because it truly arose as something not within this being, but something that truly, came as a vesseldom, and through the gift and the help beautifully of so many beautiful beings, including Lisa, for those of you who know Lisa, who shares at Rasa as well, and so helps us bring this into the world. When this really started to come, I had no idea the impact. I truly knew after working clinically and making these things individually, some of the impact that this had on people's lives. But over these years, and we're really just moving in our third year now, moving towards our third year. We're just it's unbelievable to know that. But in that way, it's been so beautiful to witness, for example, the yoni eggs or the yoni wand. When I have a woman tell me that I have never, been able to feel pleasure before in my yoni, I always had pain and discomfort. And finally, for the first time in 20 years with my husband, I'm having deep and pleasurable orgasms. This is a beautiful celebration. When a woman tells me that she's had pelvic prolapse after having 3 children, and she started to do self-massage and use a yoni egg and do some of the strengthening exercises in through the area, and she's finally noticing that she can laugh or jump or go for a bike ride without having incontinence, I'm celebrating in all of those ways. So there's so many testimonials that you can read there, and the benefits of these various things are all there as well. So do find yourself over to the website. Or I also want to say, meet with an Ayurvedic doctor or practitioner, as I was saying before. Not just myself, but if Ayurveda is touching your life, then find someone that you have a resonance with. So if there are any challenges with women's health, you can really on a one-to-one basis deepen into some of these practices, have them offered to you, and then have them throughout your life. So have them be a possibility to implement throughout your life. And I see that Ksenia, hi beautiful Ksenia, she's offering, I love Abhyanga, the best thing. Only with Rasa, no other creams, nothing, just oils. Yeah, it's beautiful. We may have been suggested, or we may have seen, in the pharmacies when we were younger. I don't know what all of your experiences have been, but my experience was that a lot of this was a guessing game. My mom did a beautiful job, but having a collective of women and intergenerational womanhood coming together is a rarity. And so to be shared, for us to be shared, or to have the sharing around these things, vaginal care, hormonal care, cycle care, the relationship with our period, with moon, the relationship also with the moon in general, our femininity, all of these things have been a growing celebration and a growing honoring and revering of my own life over these years of touching into the Vedas and having beautiful women Ayurvedic teachers and Tantra teachers. And so I think it's so beautiful for us to share together, because much of it might have been a guessing game, checking out our magazines or looking on online, as youngsters. I didn't even have online, actually. So I'm aging myself in that. But, the ways in which we might have learned about douches or about, body care, or I've heard so many horror stories about women who have used, for example, various creams, or the way in which we've dealt with pelvic and otherwise hair care also. So dealing with vaginal hair care and stories around that, whether it be waxing or sugaring or using various hair removal creams, so many things that I didn't even actually know about, that over these years I've heard all the ways that we've just had a guessing game around all of this. So Ayurveda has some real traditional, beautiful practices that can be implemented, rituals, true rituals that can help us to honor and also come together in this way. So I love when Ksenia's sharing, in the last couple of years, she's had the introduction more and more to Ayurveda and her love for Abhyanga. So beautiful, Ksenia. This video will, yes, absolutely be shared on IGTV. We're going to do that every couple of weeks. I'm going to hop on with different topics, and especially we're going to invite all of you to ask the topics that you think would be wonderful for there to be a Q&A around. Because in the past I just did general Q&As, but then we were kind of hopping. They would often take a theme because one question would lead to the other. So what we want to do now is just have really pointed Q&As for you. So you know what the topic is going to be, and you can come here for these live Q&As to be together. Yeah, Ksenia was also offering, and I love your sharing of that this tool, the Yoni Wand, is a beautiful way also for us to release a lot of shame, guilt, traumas. It's really about self-love, so we can be with ourselves in this way. And I offer these women's Ayurveda and Tantra courses, 3 levels of them. The next level one, I believe, is coming up in June. So you can check the website for that, and we'll also put that up. So if you're looking to join one of those courses, but also the beautiful yoni eggs, just like we might wear a stone onto an area, or we might place it onto an area to feel the benefits of that stone and to feel the gift. This, for example, is rose quartz, the gift of love that arises from this. Feel the benefits of these beautiful gifts of the earth that have come to us. In the same way, these can be placed just lying down in a gentle relaxation in a shavasana, or lying in supta baddha konasana, lying in reclined butterfly, massaging the body, having a ritual, maybe even a bath beforehand, a ritual of our space, and then placing these yoni eggs beautifully into the yoni just to feel their resonance. It's a beautiful practice that can help to absolutely release so many of the traumatic narratives that we have around our yoni or our femininity, around sexuality, reproductive trauma as well, if we've had fertility trauma, various things around that area. So oftentimes these get a rap as though, you're just doing vaginal weightlifting and using them in that way, or putting it in and, going out and doing the rest of your day. This is intended to be a very intentional, beautiful practice. Even 10 minutes a day of placing these inside. So beautiful. And as I was saying, the rose quartz is a beautiful one for love. So it's especially got its loving energy. We also have an obsidian egg, and these are different sizes for different reasons, so that, the larger ones are easier to hold within when we do move towards using them also for strengthening. But obsidian is a wonderful one for trauma or for negative energies that can be held, kind of sticky energies that can be held in the area. And then we also have jade. And jade is the traditional one, that's the smallest egg. And they come in different sizes, so you can also get the jade in the other sizes, or the rose in the other sizes, or the obsidian in the other sizes. But jade is the traditional stone that was used in Taoism. So that was used in Chinese medicine, especially in women's health, and these secret ancient practices really that were done with jade. And jade has a very neutralizing energy and balancing energy, not just for the yoni, but for all of the internal organs. So it was always really revered for its benefits also, for the kidney, for the spleen, for the colon, so the way in which it could balance and emanate throughout the area. It's amazing, women, when you start to work with some of these practices internally into the yoni, you start to recognize how the yoni really is the altar of the inner embodiment as a woman, and that what we do there starts to emanate throughout, and it almost looks like a lotus, the cervix, like the bud of the lotus, and then opening up towards the uterus. And in that way, even using these, this is a more subtle energy, of course, from stones, the way in which it can emanate and be received throughout the body. But in this way, when women start doing things like yoni pichu, putting some oil into the yoni, or for example, yoni steams, they'll even start to share with me, and this is quite common, that they can taste the herb. This is how absolutely absorbing the yoni is. It's an absorbing station, actually. And any moisture in that area can really be absorbed into the area, but any herbs can also then be absorbed further. Sometimes even for chronic yeast infections, I will give the suggestion of a clove of garlic insert, especially in more extreme conditions for yeast infections with high kapha, and just taking a small clove of garlic, piercing it with a toothpick a few times, and you can wrap a string around it as well in case you're worried where that garlic clove is going to go, and then inserting it in the yoni for 20 to 30 minutes, or even for an hour or an hour and a half, depending upon if there's ever burning, we absolutely remove it. And women will constantly say to me, I start actually tasting the garlic, Tiffany. It's like I had roasted garlic cloves or something. This is how absorbing the area is. So when you use these stones as well, it's so powerful how the energy of this can be absorbed throughout your entire system. So when Ksenia is sharing this, it's so beautiful. These can be a wonderful practice just for bringing love and the energy of release, and in many ways healing and harmonizing our relationship with this altar, with the feminine altar of our being. Yes, and Yoga Flora was sharing, yes, modern medicine is founded by these traditional teachings, and it absolutely is, in that way I so respect, especially those who are returning to that in modern medicine, recognizing so many of the ancient ways that it arose from. And she's saying they were never meant to replace them, but enhance them. Absolutely, and it's so beautiful when we can come together in that way. And she's further sharing, it's so empowering to be able to bring these practices into your life, coupled with modern healthcare. They're both such a blessing. We should all take advantage for our own health. It's so beautiful to share in that way. So Sheetal was asking, can we do a castor oil pack during our period? It's not that you can't do it, but during the period, it's especially a beautiful time for resting the area. So really giving gentle rest. That's why we also don't suggest, and generally our bodies, we really don't suggest doing excessive, for example, yoga, doing excessive, for example, abhyanga, even of the full body. So also during your period, some women will find relief by doing a castor oil pack during that time, but as much as possible resting. So it's not an entire no, it's a case-by-case basis again. Ayurveda really is a presence-based medicine in that it's present to the individual in front of it. So it's present to that individual, the time, the space, the environment. It's really present to the now. And so in that way, we can, but I don't want to make it a generic kind of a general rule that you can or you can't. So all of these things, I'm giving you little introductions to them, but also make sure you're really deeply attuned to the nowness of it. How does it feel for you now? Not as a rule or not as something, like when we read the newest antioxidant is the following and we all rush out to buy it. Instead, Ayurveda says, is it specifically medicine for you at this time? Yes, you can absolutely. So after you do the castor oil pack, you should absolutely put a heating bottle. So either a heating pack, if some of you have like a heating pad, or you have a hot water bottle, put that onto the area on top of. So you have castor oil, flannel or fleece. So that which one has all the castor oil on it. Then you put another towel over top of that. Then you put your hot water bottle, or you also put a heating pad on that, and then cover yourself with a blanket. Oh, you're so welcome. I'm seeing so many thank yous. Yoga Flora was offering, I found some Ayurvedic techniques to be plain weird at first. I took some regular practice and applications before I really noticed. It took some regular practice and applications before I really noticed the benefits too. Oh, I love your sharing of that, because it can seem like that, like, whoa, that was, that's a weird thing. Like, what is that? Or what's that? Really? I get that question so often. But again, by applying it, you become your own beautiful laboratory to see the ways in which these bring great change and hopefully great freedom to our lives and to our healthfulness. Yes, absolutely. You're so welcome. I see so many of you offering thanks. I'm so deeply thankful. I'm just so profoundly thankful that we can meet together in these ways. If there's anything that is of benefit of these social media platforms, may it be this, that we share in these ways. Absolutely. Oh, you're so deeply welcome. This is the being here together in these ways for me is one of the most valuable things, because we truly, it's not just each of you or the 20, 30 of us that hop on here, but it's really the way in which you share this. So women, I would really compel each of you, we have about 5 minutes left, but I would compel each and every one of you in any way to really share with your friends, your family. So many times I will have a mom come to a course or come for consultations. Then she'll say, my daughter's like 13 and just moving into this time of menstruation, etc. Can you see her? Or can she come to one of the courses? And it's amazing to see how the circle widens. So let's allow the circle to widen. I know we don't have as much physical contact right now, but we can definitely have a contact of sharing this wisdom. And this has been a blessing to my life, to sit together with other women in great circles of these sharings. And I would love if we could share it widely. So in any way you feel that you could share this forth, please do so. And hi, dear ones, I see others hopping on. So any way in which this can bring benefit to other women's lives around you. Any final questions or anything that's there for anyone? I'm sure we need a part 2 and a part 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 about this as well. Oh, you're so welcome. And I also want to share that the upcoming, we're moving into a level 3 of the women's course, but level 1 will be coming up soon, and I'm going to make sure that we share that also on Rasa. That's also on my website, so on tiffanynicholson-smith.com. So you can also check out some upcomings there that aren't always over on Rasa Ayurveda. We need to make sure. And just a question about fibromyalgia. Questions about fibromyalgia. There are treatments in Ayurveda for really everything, anything that is a dis-ease, anything that brings us out of our profound balance. So absolutely, there are treatments, but in that today's light was more focus on women's health, I would love to shelve that, although I really welcome you to write us at Rasa, or also to write me independently, or to come for a consultation. But fibromyalgia, absolutely. And it tends to be with some of the questions you've asked before as well. I'm wondering if there might be some movement of Vata in the structure, imbalance of Vata. So do check out what it is to have a Vata Vikruti, a Vata imbalance in your structure, and how you might bring balance to that, and see if it resonates when you read about that. On Rasa Ayurveda, you can find some wonderful also some of our, on the website, some of our introductions to the doshas and doshic understandings. And in general, with fibromyalgia, one of the most wonderful things that I can suggest is especially doing daily Vata Abhyanga oil massage, warm oil massage. Also, of course, there are other lifestyle things with rest, etc. But the other thing that I can definitely suggest is potentially working with something like our Adapta-Life potion. Our Adapta-Life potion, I've had quite a beautiful response with a few patients who have been dealing with fibromyalgia. There's amazing, both Ayurvedic, well, let's say they're Ayurvedic in their totality and the way they come together, but both Western and Indian Ayurvedic herbs that are adaptogenic herbs that really help long-term stress, embedded stress, and long-term tension that's been held in the body to be restored, relaxed, and released. So yes, and I see that Jenny is sharing that the Vata oil is lovely for fibromyalgia. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. So, but I really like to see or to talk to each one of you individually to make sure that you get, that you really get the fullness of the benefits of Ayurveda. I see that Yella is asking, how often should the castor oil pack be used? So in that way, the castor oil pack can be used, I would say, to start out once weekly. In Ayurveda, we never, this whole idea that we get introduced to something and then we run out and start doing it all the time. Okay, this is too much of a whiplash for the system, to do these things so quickly. So instead, move slow and steady. Let them slowly and steadily start to implement in the structure. So what I would suggest for that is to begin with doing the castor oil pack once weekly. And actually for many of us, especially if you deal with general vata imbalance, that can be a wonderful one. But it doesn't have to be just for that. But I'm just saying in general, it can be a wonderful one to start to see the benefits of if you were starting to practice with it. So once a week, and then later you could even try it twice weekly. It all depends on how much cramping or discomfort, etc., that there is with the castor oil pack. Okay, so try that as well. We do carry the Kansa one. So we have two. I don't have the other one with me, but this is the large size, as you can see. It's called Kansa because this part of the Kansa wand is actually a bronze that's a mixture of, it's mostly copper, and so that metal is actually called Kansa in Sanskrit. So you can find these Kansa ones, and these ones are wonderful for massaging the body, which again, going back to Yella's question about castor oil, even just using some castor oil onto various areas of the body, like massaging it into a shoulder or massaging it into joints where coldness, where vata has entered, can be wonderful. So even just massaging that castor oil, and then using the Kansa wand as well, using it into those areas. So if you're using it into the shoulder or using it, I often use it even just massaging into various parts of the body, but also, as we shared, around the area of the pelvic floor, can be very, very powerful to use as well. So we do have those. We have also the facial one. Okay, any final questions from anyone? We have one last minute together. Hearts to all of you. Love to all of you. So much love. Just seeing if there's anything left there from any of you. And happiest Sunday to everyone. It's a joy to sit together in these ways. I feel truly blessed that we have the opportunity to share together now in this way. Anything final that's there for anyone? Okay. Yeah, and Harsha and Dave, Harsha was asking about using the Kansa wand because sometimes you get gray spots. So what happens is the response of the Kansa, the metal with the copper, sometimes with the acidity in our skin leaves a bit of gray, but it won't stay. You just wash it off. So it's really wonderful to use oil first and then use the Kansa wand. So you want to place the oil firstly and then use the wand. Now this one's very big, as you can see, but the smaller one, I should have brought it as well so you could all see. But using it, you may get grayness. Not everybody gets that, but then you just give a gentle wash to it. So it won't stay at all, actually. And it's helping to draw out some of that acidity. In that way, the Kansa ones are amazing for acne. So I see amazing benefits in the improvement of one's skin. There will absolutely be a recording of this available. This will be on our IGTV. So hop onto IGTV, share this with friends. We will put the preview up, but please share. Please, women, men, anyone who's on, anyone you feel this would benefit, please share, because here at Rasa, this is our intent, as you can see, to offer as much sharing as possible to really allow the gift of Ayurveda to enter so many beings' lives. So please do share, and everyone have a blessed and beautiful Sunday. Love to each and every one of you. Namaste. Thank you so much for being together in this way. We offer our prayers also to India and all of our brothers and sisters, all of my dear family and friends in India. May they be blessed with some respite from all that is occurring, and may we support in ways that truly allow them to move through this time so that more and more beings can be free. There can be less suffering and strife, and more beings there at this time can really be at peace with all that's occurring. We offer so much love to all of them. Okay, love to each and every one of you. Have a beautiful day. Namaste, all. Bye.